What a ride it has been. It all started when I was like 15 years old. My father, of course, was a journeyman radio broadcaster. He would travel from one city to the next, get a job, work for a year, open up a new radio station. And everyone thinks that that's where I got my start, with my father in radio. Actually, I didn't grow up with my father. I grew up with my mother. They divorced when I was less than a year old. Dad, actually, when my mom was 17 years old, snuck her off to Missouri. They got married where you were allowed to get married when you were 17 without my grandparents' blessing. And Grandpa wasn't real happy about that. There was one night about 6 months into it, in the middle of the night, my dad was on the radio, and he came home, and little Steve was gone, and his wife was gone. So I did not start in radio with my father, but at the age of 15, I just kind of lucked into a radio job, a station where my father was a painter. My grandfather was an actual painter. He was painting this facility. I got to go into a studio, and I sat down and said, how do you get into this? How do you get started in radio? Because I was kind of curious about radio, obviously, because my father was in the biz. And he said, well, he gave me an application for an FCC license, which you had to have back in those days. I filled it out just for the heck of it. And I got my license in the mail. And a few months later, I got a call from the boss there saying, we got an opportunity where you could just come in and play these 30-minute tapes and kind of babysit. That was my start in radio. After working there a number of years, I worked my way up I wanted to get into real radio, playing music. I wanted to play country music. I got a job at a place called the Beaver 96 and a half. That was a small FM station. Worked my way up from there to one of the biggest country music stations in Cincinnati, Ohio, which today is known as B105. For a few years, after getting married at the age of 18, I did a gig at a Christian radio station in Chattanooga, Tennessee, known as WFLI, one of the big 50,000-watt AMs in the South. Then after another trip back to Cincinnati, moved back to Georgia, where I got a job in Dalton, Georgia. For a period of time, I was delivering heating and air conditioning parts. And every day I would drive past this little corner where there was a radio station. And I decided I'm just going to stop in there and say, hey, you got any openings? And believe it or not, they said, with my experience, they're like, where have you been? We've been needing someone, which led to me doing the morning drive, 5 a.m. to 9 or 10 a.m. for about 5 years, after which I came to work in Cincinnati, 1996, as a producer for the Truckin' Bozo. The show was nearly 20 years old at that point in time. He retired in 2004, at which point I took over full time. And we had to change the name of the show. We racked our brains, what's it going to be? And we came up with America's Truckin' Network. From there up until it was November of 2020, the year we all want to forget. When I thought, I've been here for so many years, I'm untouchable. But nothing is untouchable in the year 2020, as so many millions of people actually know, sadly enough. But I got an opportunity to get a hold of Chris Gabrelchik, who you've heard our story before several times over the years about how he came into my studios one day and actually had the opportunity to spend a bit of time on the air, and things kind of took off from there. Well, I think the tables have been kind of turned, and I'm truly looking forward to having my past overnight radio friends to join a whole bunch of new overnight listening radio friends from the hours of midnight to 5 Eastern Time, or 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. out on the West Coast, because we're looking to be all over the country and hopefully all around the world with the Steve Sommers Overnight Drive live from the Hot Shot Secret Studios.